Thanks for coming here. Thanks for coming.
In Oman for the last 2 decades. Indian School RC, located in Narang, is an English-medium new educational school established in 2002 and celebrating the 20th anniversary. Kudos to the team from ISAS. Next is the team of the whole school, Indian School Bowser. Holistic education is based on the principle that each child should be nurtured and educated through both academic and focus on overall development. Time to watch the Nigerians back to the music and to sing.
It is an honor to be welcoming each of the persona individually to our school for the event which makes our hearts swell with pride, the Independence Day celebration. His Excellency, Ambassador of India to the Sultanate of Oman, Shri Amit Narang, it is a pleasure and honor to have your presence in our institution as the chief guest to partake in the celebration of the 76th year of independence, Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. We extend a respectful welcome to you, sir. We also extend a joyful welcome to the beautiful Mrs. Divya Narang ji. The Indian Navy is the naval branch of the Indian Armed Forces. The primary objective of the Navy is to safeguard the nation's maritime borders. Through joint exercises, goodwill visits, and humanitarian missions, including disaster relief, the Indian Navy promotes bilateral relations between nations. It is a mark of honor to have with us in our school the Navy contingent of the INS Chennai. We accord a respectful welcome to you, sirs. We are also extremely exuberant to have amidst us the illumined dignitaries of the Board of Directors and the School Management Committee. Dr. Shivkumar Manikam, the Chairman of the Board of Directors, Ms. Ashwini Salvikar, Finance Director, Board of Directors, Mr. Vinoba, Education Advisor, Board of Directors, Mr. Gokul Das, Operation Head, Board of Directors, the officials of the Indian Embassy in Oman, Mr. Jaypal Dethe, Mr. Praveen Kumar, First Secretary, Mrs. Reena Jain, and Ms. Renu Gautam. Dr. Alex, Academic Advisor, Board of Directors, Mr. Ajayan Koyara, ex-member Board of Directors and the President of the Indian School Voucher Management Committee. Dr. Anchit C.K., ex-member Board of Directors and the Vice President of the Indian School Voucher Management Committee. The guests from all the Indian schools, the leaders of Team ISB, all staff, parents and students, we extend a warm and cordial welcome to one and all. Patriotic songs have boosted our morale in times of crisis, strengthened our resolve in eras of uncertainty, and rekindled pride in who we are and what we represent as a great nation. The Indian School Voucher Choir, with the able guidance of our music facilitators, are here to enthrall us with their expression of patriotism through music.
जान है। अपनी आजादी कभी खोने नहीं देंगे, जगाई थी जो आग वीरों ने, सोने नहीं देंगे। खून का एक कतरा है जब तक, खून का एक कतरा है जब तक, इस भारत माँ को हम रोने न देंगे।
And we are privileged to invite His Excellency Shri Amit Narang, Ambassador of India to Oman, to share his valuable thoughts.
Good morning, Namaskar. Before I start my address, I want to hear the kids. Can you say after me 3 times? Jai Hind! Jai Hind! Jai Hind! Thank you. Chairman and members of the Board of Directors of Indian Schools in Oman, members of the School Management Committee, principal, teachers and students of Indian School Baushar, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, Namaskar once again. I'm delighted to join all of you today to celebrate not just the 76th Independence Day of India, but more importantly, 75 years of India's independence. Let me at the outset congratulate all students who have and who are presenting their prodigious talents in this excellent program put together by the school management. I was very impressed with the parade outside, and thank you to all the students who took part, not just from Indian School Baushar, but all the other schools. Children, celebrating 75 years of our nation's independence is a uniquely special occasion, a moment that does not come too many times in an individual's lifetime. As we do so, we should remember the extraordinary significance of this moment. You will be around when we celebrate our centenary 25 years from now. Earlier in the day, I had the honor of hoisting the national flag, our beloved Tiranga, at the embassy premises. And I can tell you the feeling of pride and joy is swelling in the heart as the tricolor goes up and touches the sky cannot be described in words. As is also customary, I have had the privilege of reading extracts from the address to the nation by our Honorable Rashtrapati Ji. As you all know, the recent election of Srimati Draupadi Murmu as our President is a landmark in the journey of our nation, imbued with multiple symbolisms. The fact that as we commence 76th year in our national journey, we have as our Commander-in-Chief a daughter of India, hailing from a poor tribal family in the eastern part of the country, is not just testimony to the ideals of social justice of the Indian Republic, but an apt metaphor for our journey as an independent nation. Dear children, we all know what happened 75 years ago. A proud nation was born, unshackling the chains of colonialism and breaking free from centuries of foreign domination. To put it simply, India won freedom. A simple word, freedom, but laden with so many meanings and suffused with so many perspectives. I want to ask you today, what is freedom? You may think it is strange for me to be asking this silly sounding question at a time when we are celebrating Independence or Freedom Day, the day that stands for freedom itself. But I want you to pause and reflect a moment. What is really meant by freedom? What did generations of patriotic Indians and freedom fighters live and die for? What did we achieve on 15th August 1947, that midnight hour? What is this so-called tryst with destiny all about? To help you mull over this question, I'll give you a 3-pronged matrix. Think of freedoms in terms of from, of, and for. In other words, freedom from what? Freedom of what? And more importantly, freedom for what? Each of these lenses will lead you to important perspectives of freedom, each worthy of your understanding as you grow up. The first one is the simplest. Or is it? Freedom from, yes, we got freedom from British colonial rule, from foreign occupation, imperial domination. Everybody understands that. This part is the easiest so far. But this simple lens also hides a deeper meaning. After all, we cannot just relate 15th August 1947 with political freedom. Along with that political freedom, equally important was our collective pledge to walk the path of social justice and reform. Seen from this context, it was also freedom from dilapidated social structures, deeply ingrained dogma of our society, ossified traditions, all of which were holding back the full potential of India. As we sought to build a new political structure based on democracy, equality, and equity, it was a freedom also from feudalism, freedom from patriarchy, freedom from discrimination, and freedom from obscurantism. The second lens, what is the freedom of? What do you do with freedom? Quite clearly, and that should be obvious, freedom of deciding our own fate. No other imperial power can come and decide what is good or not for us. We will decide our own future. That's my first freedom. The new nation that was born that day or that night was sovereign, an independent actor on the world stage. And the people of India were now masters of their own destiny. We also gained the freedom to decide our internal structures. How will we govern ourselves? What will be our political structure? How will our government be? How will our economy be run? How will our society be structured? Therefore, with political freedom also came freedom of the individual. This is very important. Anchored in the Constitution in hallowed ideas such as freedom of thought, freedom of association, of expression, of movement. The gaining and guaranteeing of these freedoms is arguably more significant than political freedom itself. For without these freedoms, the freedom of the nation would have remained hollow. Finally, the most important lens and perhaps most difficult to understand. What is this freedom for? What do you do with this freedom? And this is here that the journey of our nation in these past 75 years comes into perspective. What have we done with the freedom we gained on 15th August 1947? The freedom we gained was for giving every Indian, no matter his or her religion, region, caste, belief, gender, language, culture, an equal stake in the Indian nation. This sounds very simple today, but it was a huge leap of faith for a poor country gaining independence. As Rashtrapati ji has noted in her address yesterday, which you might have seen, India's embrace of full democracy. What do you mean by full democracy? Not just political democracy, but social democracy was a revolutionary idea, much ahead of its times. The freedom was also for rekindling our civilizational ethos, our culture, our values, our principles, and in doing so, to enable India to regain her rightful path, rightful place on the world stage. The freedom, likewise, is also for creating and nurturing an egalitarian society in which education and hard work, which you are doing in the schools, is the only ladder for success. So no matter who you are and where you are from, as long as you get educated and you work hard, you can reach the highest strata of society. The freedom was for ending chronic poverty, unleashing the creative talents of our youth, bringing basic amenities to the doorstep of every Indian, enabling rapid economic progress and development. This is what freedom is for. It is only when we fully comprehend the true value of our freedom can we truly cherish it. I hope the three lenses I have suggested will help you in appreciating the blessing of freedom and the privilege of being born in a free country like you and me. Dear children, the 75 years of our national journey clearly is a matter of great pride for all of us. We have indeed come a long, long way from where we started. From being a poor country with mass illiteracy, we are today among the top 5 largest economies in the world, one of the fastest growing major economies in the world, and the 3rd largest economy, in fact, in purchasing power parity. From being burdened by disease, chronic disease, all kinds of diseases were prevalent in India, to a stage where the Indian medical sector today administers 2 billion COVID doses within a span of 18 months, a record in the world. And today India is recognized not as a disease capital of the world, but the pharmacy of the world. From being dependent on food imports, those who are old enough will remember, there was a time when we couldn't grow enough food and we had to import even grain to feed our people, to today becoming one of the largest food exporters in the world. Today, when there is grain shortage because of Ukraine crisis, everybody looks at India to supply the wheat. From a non-existing manufacturing base, we crossed this year $400 billion of merchandise exports in 1 year. At over 18 million strong, today the Indian diaspora, you belong to this sector that I'm talking about, is the largest diaspora population in the world of any country, living and thriving all across the globe. On the economic side, with over 100 unicorns, which are billion-dollar startups, India is now known as the startup capital of the world. Leading the world in IT, is working now? IT and digital financial inclusion. While there is no doubt that we have still a long way to go to overcome all challenges and become a truly developed economy, there is equally no doubt that today, on this day, we can hold our heads high with the journey so far. Speaking of the future, which is where you belong, you may not have been deeply involved in the last 75 years of the journey, but surely the next 25 of our nation's journey till our centenary will belong to you. Is it working? Is it working? No, it's okay, I'll finish with this. Thank you, sir. Your talent, your hard work, your diligence and your vision will decide where India will be when she turns 100. In this era of knowledge and innovation, your pen, or perhaps in your case more aptly, your mouse and your keypad, will decide India's destiny, will enable you to conquer the world. As you go on to build a better future for yourself and for humankind, which I have no doubt you will, please remember your debt to your motherland. Remember to give back for the freedom that you inherited. And while you do so, I will remind you to bear in mind what Gandhiji said. Gandhiji gave us a beautiful talisman, a mantra, a guidepost for what you should and what you should not do. The talisman, which deeply influenced me when I was a kid, is worth reading in full, and I will read it for you. Gandhiji said, and I quote, "I will give you a talisman." A talisman is like a mantra. Whenever you are in doubt, or when the self becomes too much with you, apply the following test. Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man or woman whom you may have seen, and ask yourself, if the step you are contemplating is going to be of any use to him or her. Will he or she gain anything from it? Will it restore to him or her control over his or her own destiny? In other words, will it lead to Swaraj? And Swaraj, Gandhiji used here as freedom. In other words, will it lead to freedom for the hungry and starving millions? Then you will find your doubts and yourself melt away. Unquote. This was one of the last notes left by Gandhiji before his death, and clearly one of the most profound. If your actions in the years ahead come close to bringing freedom to your fellow Indians and helping the nation realize its true potential, then you would have lived up to Gandhiji's ideals. Till then, as Swami Vivekananda said, arise, awake, and stop not till the goal is reached. Jai Hind. Thank you.